We live our lives under a comforting delusion of autonomy. We perceive ourselves as single, coherent entities, the undisputed masters of our own skin. We believe that the boundaries of our bodies are sacred and that we are the sole occupants of our consciousness. But biology tells a much more malevolent story. You are not an individual. You are a host. You are a biological vessel for a massive, ancient, and indifferent empire of trillions. Within the lightless, acidic depths of your gut resides an ecosystem of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that outnumber your own human cells. This is the microbiome, the silent architect of your digestion, your immunity, and even your thoughts. And every day you expel a blueprint of this empire into the abyss. We have been conditioned to view human waste with visceral revulsion. We perceive it as the end of the line, the useless, toxic byproduct of consumption. But in the clinical reality of the 21st century, the stool is the most precious asset humanity possesses. It is a biological library of our species, a high-fidelity record of our ancestral past. Within a single gram of human feces, there are more bacteria than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. It is a staggering concentration of life, a primordial soup that holds the key to our survival or our extinction. Today, we peel back the skin of the global poop vault to expose a discovery that should have remained a secret. This is the liquidation of the internal ecosystem. Welcome to Discovered. To understand the magnitude of this threat, we must first confront the silent extinction occurring within our own bodies. Since the end of the Second World War, the human species has been engaged in a scorched earth policy against its own internal inhabitants. Our modern lifestyle, fueled by processed chemicals, excessive antibiotics, and an obsessive over-sanitized environment, has decimated the biodiversity of our gut. We are hollowing ourselves out. Indigenous tribes, who live in contact with the raw soil of the earth, possess microbiomes so diverse they look like a different species compared to cities. We have traded our biological depth for the convenience of the fast food age, and the bill is finally coming due. We are literally falling apart from the inside out. The sharp rise in metabolic diseases, debilitating allergies, and incurable autoimmune disorders is not a coincidence. It is the sound of an ecosystem in collapse. When we lose our ancestral gut microbes, we lose the software that runs our bodies. And unlike a digital file, you cannot simply download a healthy microbiome. Once these ancient strains vanish, they are gone forever, leaving us vulnerable to pathogens that were once kept in check by the sheer density of our internal defenses. In a desperate attempt to halt this liquidation, a group of scientists has established the Microbiota Vault in Switzerland, a microbial Noah's Ark. Located deep under a frozen mountain, this prototype vault stores thousands of stool samples at -80 degrees Celsius. The goal is to reach 10,000 samples by 2029, creating a global bank of frozen waste to preserve what remains of our biodiversity. The unofficial slogan is a grim prophecy. Freezing today's waste to save tomorrow's lives. But why the secrecy? Why the mountain fortress? Because the scientists know that a global disaster is not a matter of if, but when. Imagine a world on the brink of collapse, not from nuclear fire or asteroid impact, but from a total failure of the human gut. Consider the synthetic gluten collapse, a speculative but scientifically grounded scenario where the specific bacteria required to process staple grains are wiped out by a mutated agricultural pathogen or a runaway antibiotic. Overnight, every crop becomes toxic. Supermarkets become aisles of poison. Humanity is brought to its knees not by a lack of food, but by the inability to process it. In this dark future, Earth's salvation will not come from technology or weaponry. It will come from a tiny frozen jar in a Swiss mountain, a relic of a time when we still possessed the microbial blueprint for survival. But the vault is not just about humans. The internal ecosystem of our bowels is inextricably linked to the invisible helpers in our soil. Pesticides and monoculture farming have turned the Earth's surface into a biological desert. We have devastated the agricultural microbes that allow plants to draw nutrients from the ground. If these invisible helpers vanish, the crops die, and we die with them. The future of biodiversity is currently being flushed through the toilets of the world, and we are only now realizing that we are discarding our own life support system. The medical reality of this collapse is already manifesting in the rise of superbugs like Clostridium difficile. This is a predator that thrives when your internal defenses are cleared by antibiotics. It is a monster that eats you from the inside. The only effective treatment in many cases is a fecal transplant, the literal transfer of stool from a healthy donor into the diseased gut of the victim. This is the dark tinder of the near future, a world where we must find compatible microbial profiles just to stay alive. One man's waste becomes another man's miracle cure, a visceral reminder that our dignity is a luxury provided by a healthy bacterial profile. Psychologically, the poop vault represents the ultimate gallows of human vanity. We have spent millennia building cathedrals and monuments to our intellect, only to realize that our survival depends on the preservation of our excrement. NASA studies astronaut waste not for curiosity, but to monitor the rapid decay of health in zero-gravity environments where the microbiome is stripped of its earthly anchors. Paleontologists obsess over coprolites, fossilized ancient feces, because they are the only honest records of what lived and died millions of years ago. T-Rex dumps tell a story of a world that didn't need gluten-free crackers. It was a world of raw, legendary harvests. We are entering an era of microbial regret. We are realizing that the real tomato, the one that actually possessed a soul and a taste, was a product of a bacterial balance we have destroyed. We dream of rebuilding pre-industrial gut ecosystems, hoping that a perfect bacterial profile can reboot a civilization that has grown sickly and weak. But it may be too late. If key elements of the microbiome vanish like the dodo, no amount of technology can bring them back. We are walking around with a blueprint of our own survival in our bellies, but we are losing the ink. The objective danger is not a single infection, but a translocation pandemic. Imagine a scenario where a pathogen infects the fecal stream of the entire global population. In an overconnected, overpopulated world, our waste systems are the ultimate vulnerability. If a virus were to mutate to survive the sewage treatment process and re-enter our water tables, it would be a circular execution. We would be poisoned by the very waste we thought we had mastered. This is the synthetic miasma, a world where the very smell of the air is a warning of biological debt. The discovery of the sheer bacterial richness of human waste is a reminder that the floor is thinner than you think. 1 gram of your daily dump could one day reboot civilization, or it could be the conduit for its final collapse. We are a collection of bacteroids and viruses, held together by a fragile thread of ecological balance. When that thread is cut, we are nothing more than a biological goldmine for the scavengers of the microscopic world. In the year 2129, as speculative history might record, humanity may find itself on its knees, begging rogue scientists to open the last working vault in Switzerland. They will look for sample number 427, the stool of a man who still ate legumes and walked in the dirt. They will look for the perfect profile to bring back the real pizza, the real bread, and the real human gut. But until then, we are merely walking fossils, drifting through a sanitized world, oblivious to the silent extinction occurring within our own intestines. The microbial Noah's Ark is a fortress of frozen regret. It is a monument to the fact that we have wrecked our internal ecosystems so thoroughly that we must now freeze our waste to save our future. This is the clinical reality of the 21st century. The end is not coming from the stars or the fire. It is coming from the liquidation of the inhabitants of your own gut. If you are prepared to face the truths that the world chooses to ignore, stay with us. There are many more biological anomalies and scientific horrors waiting to be unburied. We will continue to explore the truths that have been hidden in the shadows of our own anatomy and the depths of our social limitations. Subscribe to Discovered and activate the notification bell. In a world of comfortable delusions and sterilized science, we provide the cold, clinical evidence of reality. Do not miss our next report, where we will examine the next impossible or almost possible scenario that threatens the very definition of humanity. See you in the next investigation. Remember, your stomach is rumbling for a reason. The end is within you.